over the Christmas period, Donald Trump bombed Nigeria. What is going on? I've got my special, wonderful guest, Pety Lawton, who's a writer on African affairs, and we're going to be talking about that, plus some other stuff about what's going on with Somaliland and Israel and Somalia, because Trump is bombing Somalia. What is going on with this anti-war president, this peace president? Okay. Hey, Pety, thank you so much for making yourself available.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great.
You're so welcome. And do you want to say, this is the first time you've been on my channel, do you just want to say a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, why you do it?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Pety Lorton. I was born and grew up in South Africa, and then came to the UK and been living in the UK ever since, apart from a few years spent in France. And I started my website in 2014. It's called africanagenda.net. It was supposed to be African Agenda, the New World Order in Africa. And I write about a number of things. I wouldn't call myself a journalist. I'm a writer. I focus on a lot of modern African history, going back post-60s, post-independence era. And I try and cover as much as I can in terms of infrastructure, mega infrastructure development issues. I've done a lot on the African Integrated High-Speed Railway Network. If I move to the side, your viewers might see the map on the wall behind me. So that really excites me, the developments, the good news, the positive news coming out of the continent, because there's so much of it, eh? And what we tend to do is, the world focuses on the negative, on the wars, the poverty, and in actual fact, there's so much positive, amazing stuff going on, so many changes taking place. And so that's my website. There's a load of stuff on the menu, and you can access many articles. I'm afraid I'm a little bit lax in being on other platforms. I have got one article up on Substack, and when I remember how I actually did that, I will add to the list, but I've forgotten how I put it up there.
Well, we look forward to that. So africaagenda.net, and
yes.
I do invite people to go check that out. I had a look. It was very, very interesting. And I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you've evolved or grown out of the LaRouche stable, yes, which is the same stable that Harley Schlanger, Matt Ehret, and Susan Kokinder, who are regular guests on my channel, have all, grown out of and developed from. And so that's pretty great, I think, because from what I've heard about Lyndon LaRouche and what he stood for, it was pretty good. And you and I got in touch just after the bombing of Boko Haram in Nigeria. Now, just for people who don't watching this in the United States, the rest of the world, Nigeria is one of the most populous, if not the most populous country in Africa. Certainly one of the most populous. It's very large, very rich in oil, but with a very high level of income inequality, and split into three main regions, I think. Fulani, the three main tribes, the Fulani, which are the Muslims in the northeast, and then you have the Igbo in the south, Port Harcourt, and the Yoruba in the north, in the northwest. But there are other tribes and stuff as well. A former British colony, and reports for many, many years now about Boko Haram, this extreme, violent Muslim group that's going around attacking Christians. And then recently, like I said earlier, Trump is alleged to have bombed Boko Haram or their camps or whatever at the invitation of the Nigerian government. So what is going on?
Well, okay, well, get one thing. The Boko Haram are not targeting Christians; they're targeting Nigerians of whatever faith they are. They're targeting the Muslims as much as they're targeting Christians.
Okay, wait a minute. Hold on, Pety.
Yeah.
Hold on. Are you saying that the news reports that we're getting here are distorted? You can't be kidding, right?
No. But actually, that is coming from Trump, because he sent those missiles on Christmas Day. It was the Christmas present, for Boko Haram, or ISWAP, the Islamic States of West African Province is the other title, Boko Haram, ISWAP. So he is saying the Christians, okay? Trump is saying, okay, the Boko Haram are targeting the Christians, and here's America coming over the hill to save the Christians. But Boko Haram are targeting Nigerians, whatever faith. I don't know why Trump has chosen to bring that out. I really don't know. I don't know if it's a crusade or what is going on.
Mhm.
Anyway, so Boko Haram have been, this is nothing new, huh? Boko Haram.
So who are Boko Haram and when did they arise and how are the British involved, as I suspect they are?
Well, Boko Haram, it means in Hausa, it means Western education is forbidden. So they started off way back about 2005, 2002, and they have evolved to be an extremist, very, very violent organization. They use torture, they harm women and children, they harm innocents, they kidnap, they ambush, they terrorize. So they are terrorists.
Is that like the sort of Nigerian cousins of the Taliban and the Wahhabis? Would that be a HTS? Would that be accurate?
Yes, yeah, very accurate. The whole thing is elevated over recent time. It's really accelerated. But for one thing, Trump sent the missiles to, I think it's called Sokoto province, and that is actually on the border with Niger. It's in the western part, the northwestern part of Nigeria. So that does ring alarm bells when you think, is Trump's administration targeting Niger by bombing that particular province? Because previous to that, we've had, we've all known that Boko Haram are more prevalent in the eastern part, in the Borno state and other states, Plateau State, Borno State. And then for these missiles to land in Sokoto province in the west rather than the east, and to be right on the border of Niger is cause for some thinking there. Are they targeting Niger? Because as we know, Niger is under military rule. There's a coup in the three states, the AES, Alliance Etat Sahelian, the Sahelian states. They have a triumvirate of Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali.
Mm.
And they are doing, most of the world is applauding what they're doing. What they're doing seems to be absolutely fantastic in reclaiming their mineral wealth. Mali, I heard, are stockpiling their gold. So much gold in Mali, they're stockpiling it. And they are trying to bring about an economic revolution. But to have a more balanced view of that, Niger is backed by Iran. Niger is full of uranium. And I think that's possibly one of the links with Iran and also Islamic. So we have to bear that in mind. And you think, okay, so what is General Tiani doing? I think he's an amazing leader, General Tiani of Niger. Are they, I mean, they have had an incredible problem. They have an incredible problem currently, all those three states, with the extremists in the Sahel, in the Maghreb. They have to watch their soldiers, their armies being attacked, their soldiers dying, and they are attacking them. In the same time, the ISIS are hindering development in those countries. So is Niger? Is there a section of ISIS that is being harbored in Niger? I don't know. I'm just putting that out as a possible. But it is interesting that he chose that state. I can understand that possibly that the Boko Haram, ISWAP is the other branch of Boko Haram, but we call them Boko Haram. And they have been coming in through Niger. And they're called bandits. The Nigerian government has been calling them bandits for a long time. I'm not entirely sure why. I think that may be an interesting answer to why they're calling them bandits. But they have possibly dropped the missiles on that particular province because Niger is the conduit. They're coming in from Niger. So, yeah.
Let me just stop you there just so I can catch up and make sure I got this. And also add something that I'm perhaps be corrected by if I got this wrong, right? So Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso are 3 of the 13, I think 13 countries that are part of the Francophone Africa, which have the CFA, the colonial franc, so they don't have their own currency. Paris prints their currency, and then Paris can use that currency to buy Burkina Faso's and gold and Niger's uranium and Mali's gold for pennies because they just printed the paper themselves, right? And then these 3 countries are vying for independence from French colonial rule, wanting to go their own way, forming an alliance between the 3 of them. And then all of a sudden, there's emergence of ISIS, this militant Islamic group to unsettle things and destabilize. Wonder where the French and the British have ever done that before. And what you're saying is that the militants, the Islamic militants, could be going through Niger into Nigeria, which is why Trump bombed that part of the Nigeria. But that part of Nigeria, anyways, is mostly Muslim. I think that banned the border with Nigeria, eastern Nigeria, because that's where the Fulani are, which is the Hausa-speaking people who are Muslim. And you're saying that the Boko Haram aren't just attacking Christians; they're attacking Muslims as well. They're just attacking people.
Yeah.
Why?
Why what?
Why are they doing this? What are they arguing for? Okay, no Western education. What do they want? They want some
Boko Haram. Sorry,
some
yes.
Taliban-style regime in all of Nigeria, or just that part of Nigeria. What do they say their goal is?
I wonder if they remember their original goal. You know, the original leader was killed in 2009 when he was in detention. He was caught by the Nigerian administration and killed. I suspect, because it is a pattern in many, many African countries, that the original of what we now regard as terrorist groups are not reflective in their nature, their original nature, as to what they are now. And you can say the same for Al-Shabaab. You can say the same for ADF, that is terrorizing in Ituri province, North Kivu of Congo. You can say it for a lot of these organizations that have become terrorist organizations. So my assumption is that somewhere along the line, they get hijacked. The original purpose is hijacked. And actually the whole organization is hijacked, and they become conduits for the drug trade, human trafficking, destabilization, which is what their purpose is. So Boko Haram, getting back to them, you know, one of the most interesting things is in 2015, okay, so they start around about 2002.
Mm-hmm.
They get, the leader gets killed 2009. They resurrect, they become more violent, operating in the northern provinces of Nigeria. And then in 2015, okay, I'm going to tell you a little story here. So in 2015, Nigeria was under the presidency of Goodluck Jonathan, a Christian, by the way. And he was in power when the Chibok girls were kidnapped. Do you remember the Chibok girls?
No.
And Michelle Obama? I might jog your memory. Okay, so 243 young schoolgirls were abducted.
Yes.
In Nigeria.
Vaguely, yes.
The Chibok, bring back our girls. That was the hashtag campaign, bring back our girls. So they were abducted by Boko Haram, openly by Boko Haram. Boko Haram said we've abducted them. Now, Nigerians have a story that the security was removed because the school was in an insecure area, and there was security on the school. And that the night of the abduction, the security was minimized. And they say it was a CIA intervention. Anyway, so Boko Haram take off with these children, to a horrendous fate. And a private security company based in Nigeria, not a Nigerian private security company, but an international one called STEP, STTEP, STEP International, were contracted by the Nigerian government to secure the hostage rescue of the Chibok girls. So rather than ramble, I'll make this brief. So at that time, STEP International had as its chairman a South African, actually Zambian-born South African national called Major General Ibn Barlow. Ibn Barlow is famous for being the founder of a private military company called Executive Outcomes that had to be that stopped in around about 1998 due to some very interesting reasons. So STEP International get the contract to secure the rescue of the Chibok girls, and Ibn Barlow and his team go up there. They train a contingent of the Nigerian forces in hostage rescue. And while they're in the process of doing this, President Jonathan finds that Boko Haram are about to take a major town called Maiduguri in northern Nigeria. They already have a huge, at this time, 2015, they have a huge area under their control and about to take one of the main key cities, Maiduguri. So Goodluck Jonathan says to STEP International that can they come off their mission, that being to rescue the Chibok schoolgirls, and to please assist the Nigerian army in stopping Boko Haram from taking Maiduguri. So their mission has changed more or less overnight. But fortunately, they have already selected and trained a contingent of the Nigerian forces, which is called 72 Mobile Strike Force. So highly trained, they've chosen and selected the best of the best from the Nigerian army. So they head off to Maiduguri to assist the army that's there, the Nigerian army that's there, then who are about to be overrun. And their mandate from the government, from Goodluck Jonathan's government, is to push Boko Haram back from Nigerian territory. They are contracted for, I can't remember how long, 3 months. So they start their mission to Maiduguri beginning of March. Now, within 4 weeks, this STEP International, which is actually like a version of Executive Outcomes under General Major Ibn Barlow, succeed in wiping out Boko Haram from an area the size of Belgium.
Wow.
In 4 weeks.
Wow.
Working with the Nigerian army, using the best of the best, using a particular training program, using very, very little at their disposal. The only things they had at their disposal, what the Nigerian army have at their disposal, and yet they achieved that in 4 weeks. Now, they're in the process, right, of completely clearing Boko Haram from that region by taking out their bases. And don't go thinking, my goodness, Boko Haram might have had a just reason, they, good intentions. These are a terrorist organization. I've met a number of Nigerians in my time. They hate Boko Haram with a passion because they've all lost children, family members to them. So now, 2015 was a major election. So what happens, right, is we've got Obama in power, and we have then got the incoming president of Nigeria, a Muslim, by the way, Muhammadu Buhari. And Muhammadu Buhari wins the election. The only reason they can hold the elections is because STEP International have stabilized an area the size of Belgium so they could have the elections. Goodluck Jonathan loses his presidency, and in comes Muhammadu Buhari. Now, Muhammadu Buhari has a lot in common with Obama, President Obama. They both have the same campaign manager, David Axelrod.
I was wondering at what point does some imperial Western power come in, exerting its hegemonic muscle?
Yeah, so you've got David Axelrod, who's big time advisor, right-hand man to Obama, is also the campaign manager for Muhammadu Buhari. So in other words, specify America under Obama, because America under Trump America under JFK, America under whoever is a different place. America under Obama. And okay, so we've got David Axelrod getting Muhammadu Buhari in power, and we've got Michelle Obama. Can I call it Big Mike?
You can call it Big Mike. I think she would. He would prefer it.
Right. So then we've got the wife of Obama doing her hashtag campaign, Bring Back the Girls.
Yep.
And there's this whole media hype, which is very, very interesting. And it's all part of what happens. You then get this massive push about education. Billions flow into the pot from the UN, from the World Bank, from Britain, from various Hollywood fundraisers of people going, oh, bring back the girls, bring back the girls. The girls didn't get to come back. I think 53 made it out. And it's all a show. You know, this is all part of the theatre for the public that America, my goodness, they're so compassionate. They're so desperately concerned about these Nigerian school children. In the meantime, okay, Buhari is in power. Buhari cancels the contract for Step International and tells them they have to leave. So here they have this private military company, security company, have secured an area the size of Belgium, have stabilized the region so that it can hold the elections. Buhari gets in and bang, you're out. Hi guys, thanks very much. Cheers, never come back.
Okay.
So that's the story of Boko Haram were stopped in 2015. They were stopped dead in their tracks. Change of government comes in, that whole Bring Back the Girls campaign, which then led to massive funding through US aid to the Islamic schools. You see how it all matches up in northern Nigeria. Okay, massive amounts of money through US aid, recently exposed by Scott Perry. Very, very interesting. Senator Scott Perry, Congressman Scott Perry exposed that. The madrasas, the Islamic schools. Okay. Whether or not that money even went to those schools is debatable. Did they go straight to the funding of Boko Haram?
Okay, so yeah. Funding madrasas, teaching so that young people are taught in a violent expression of Islam.
I don't even know if the money went to those schools.
I don't even know. Okay,
no, if
okay,
you listen
but it went to the madrasas, you said.
Supposedly, but you know, Scott Perry said the money's been flowing through USAID to schools that don't even exist in Pakistan.
Right. So the money's gone from the American taxpayer through USAID into somebody's pocket.
Thanks to Michelle Obama, Big Mike, and her hashtag Save the Girls, Bring Back Our Girls campaign. You see the whole campaign, the theatre, the humanitarian theatre.
Yeah.
Loads of money.
Which begs the question, like, who is benefiting from the unrest that Boko Haram are stewing? Who benefits and who are they working for?
Okay, so if you look at a map of the natural mineral resources of Nigeria, discounting oil, okay,
yep.
Nigeria is dripping in oil. Most of it's in the south, in Biafra region.
Mm-hmm.
And up in the northern, central to northern, there is an array of stuff, an array of it. Interesting one, they have a very high-grade coal deposit of coal.
Mm-hmm.
Europe's running out of net zero energy, so it's
we're running out of wind and sun, are we?
Going to be needing some coal.
By the way, just on that, I think it was last week or in the last week, Germany blew up a top-grade, modern coal power station that is only 6 years old.
That's like Stone Age, huh? Isn't that just Stone Age? So they also have a lot of gold. They have a lot of very, very interesting minerals. And I go back to when Step were working there. They got some Boko Haram guys taken prisoner.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the key things they asked them, because they wanted to know as much as possible about Boko Haram, they said, you know, you guys, because they found they were incredibly well equipped, and technicals, ammunition, medical supplies. They were really well kitted out, okay? They are now. They were back then in 2015. Anyway, so what the step guys did was they said to the Boko Haram prisoners, they said, who are you getting all this from? You know, who's financing you? Who's giving you all this stuff? And do you know the answer was from white men in helicopters who speak Hollywood.
White men in Americans.
White men in helicopters who speak Hollywood.
CIA.
CIA. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Where were we with that?
Okay. No. Okay.
Yeah, the minerals.
How does the CIA or the United States benefit from stoking up this unrest, this conflict in Nigeria, where there's all this gold? I mean, gold will do it, right? But all these other minerals and the coal. Why not just let the Nigerians get on with it? Let there be peace and stability. Keep working with Step International, and then you still got the gold and the coal because Nigeria is going to sell it. How does the conflict benefit the CIA or the Americans or the British or whoever?
Well, who does it benefit? Okay, so when we talk about Boko Haram, or we talk about Sudan, or we talk about Eastern Congo, that horrendous war ongoing, completely ignored by the world, particularly South Africa, who want to help the Palestinians in Gaza, but don't mention that country just up the road from them called the DRC, where some 12 million people have died. Okay, so all these wars, northern Mozambique, other hotspots, Somalia, crikey, you name it, Cameroon, very seldom mentioned. So you look at it and you can understand things by just seeing it as all the same war. It is all the same war.
Okay.
So it's just the same war reigniting in new areas. And the whole objective of the outside forces, I'll call it the British Empire. If you say it's the British Empire, you sound anti-British, and I love this place. I love Britain. So City of London, outside forces.
I think you can say British Empire, but there's a difference between the English, Scots, Welsh and Irish people and the British Empire. They're not the same.
Yeah, of course. Right? But if you are African and you're listening to that, are you thinking European? Are you thinking British? Are you thinking, that's what my concern is. So call it the powers that be, the global elite.
The globalist, the remnant, the City of London and its proxies.
So City of London, you have the extractive industry. And within that extractive industry, you have your huge names, your huge mining names that have been there from the start. Okay, so you've got the Glencores, you've got Glencore Xstrata, Rio Tinto, BHP Billington, Anglo American, and then you've got an array, Banro, now gone Banro, Barrick Gold. You have all these huge names.
British origin companies.
Like Glencore is Anglo-Swiss.
Okay, so some British.
Anglo-Swiss. So, but you have them headquartered in the City of London. Okay, so you have them in the fold. They are a network, and what you'll find is they are operating under subsidiaries. So you'll come across different names. If you break the names down, you come back to, I don't know, what is it? One handful, two handfuls of the same. It's the same network. It's the same group, and it's the extractive industry. The main MNCs, multinational corporations. So they are okay. So getting back to it's all the same war. So you have a program that's been running since we could call the first one the Biafran War in the late 60s. And that was Alf Aquitaine, all about oil. And then there was that horrendous famine because of food shortages. But what you have, and what you had then and what you have now, is the war for Africa. It's a destabilization program that is being run to keep African states destabilized. The benefits, I made you a list. Wait. Okay.
Benefits that accrue to the imperial hegemons, not to the African people.
No.
Well,
Hegemons. That's
yeah.
a good one. Hegemons. Okay, so all the same war for Africa, and you have destabilization. You have the benefits for them are the weakened governments, the lawlessness, civil unrest, discontent, weakened state, damage to infrastructure, damage to weakened economy, leading to partition. This allows for regime change, deregulated economic environment, perfect for the big MNCs, disruption of society, increased social tension, leading to partition. And it's all there, it's all the same program.
I think the first thing, I think one of the first things you said really made sense. A weakened government.
Yeah.
Because the last thing that they would want is a strong
government,
nationalist, sovereigntist government, like from my read of what's happening in Burkina Faso with Ibrahim Traore, that no, we're not going to let you, we're going to keep the gold that we mine, and then we're going to build the refinery so we get the upgrade in value. So we refine the gold. Or like I think what Mali did a few years ago, saying to France, listen, you want to buy uranium off us now? You pay market rates. Right?
Shock horror.
No, $1.65 a kilo for uranium. No, the market rate is $150. But you, France, you can have it for $200 a kilo.
Yes,
the last thing France wants is a sovereigntist government that's going to take care of its own people, because then it makes it harder for them to fill their own pockets. Okay, I got it. So then bring it back to Trump.
Yeah. Can I give you one really quick example that is brilliant? Okay, so you've got Democratic Republic of Congo,
yes.
second largest country in the African continent after Algeria. DRC is the size of Western Europe. It's vast, 300,000 million square kilometers, something like that. Now, they have every natural resource known to mankind in bucket loads. They have hilltops made of gold. You know, they have incredible wealth. Yep. And anyway, they are one of the poorest nations on earth. Now, what is happening with 30 years of war, which is what you've had in the Eastern Congo, North and South Kivu and Ituri, you have utopian level deregulation. So you've got your mining houses and they're mining away, state-of-the-art mining equipment, chucking it all out, putting it into Rwanda, shipping it off to Brussels, Tel Aviv, you know.
And I suppose they'll have their own security forces to insulate them from the conflict.
Yes. Like Blackwater, like Eric Prince has just got in. Mm-hmm. Okay, so DRC, the annual budget, right, for operating the state establishment of the second largest country in Africa with all the world's wealth, was last reported, and thanks to President Tshisekedi's diversifying the economy, is now on $18 billion annually.
Wow,
that's nothing.
That is nothing. I think
that's nothing.
London. I'm guessing here, right? But I suppose the mayor of London, his budget is much larger than 18 billion.
Yeah. So there you get it into perspective, right?
Yeah.
So what they do is those MNCs pay as little tax as possible. I know that Joseph Kabila, the president before Tshisekedi, got them to raise it to 10%. But now this happens all across the board, huh? The low tax rate, up to 3%, 5%. You know, fighting like hell to get 10%. And then you see what they do. All that network of MNCs, these are all coming from your paradise papers, your offshore tax havens in the Caribbean, in the Channel Islands. This is the banking empire that we talk about.
Mm. Okay. Okay. So then the companies benefit from weak governments. It means they pay little to no tax. They don't have to do environmental regulation because they can just dump their stuff. They don't have to pay the workers a decent rate, as like a strong government might say, listen, pay people properly, because they can pay them pittance wages because there isn't anything going on. There's no local industry. All there is conflict. So these multinational corporations that are extracting resources from this country, depriving the local people of those resources, have their own security force. so that they remain insulated from any conflict, and they keep the conflict brewing by getting this group to hate this other group, playing them off against each other, and thus enriching and lining their own pockets.
Yeah, it's in it, but it spins off more on that. Corporate responsibility. This thing came in about 15 years ago, part of ESG.
Mhm.
So now these big corporations have to act responsibly. And so part of that whole thing has been hijacked and swung. So they then promise to build the little roads and the little schools. And they say to the government, the weakened government, that they're paying off. No, we've given so much to the community. That whole thing of ESG, DEI in America, so they'll do that instead of handing over what they should rightfully be handing over to the sitting government, for that government to issue what governments should be issuing, service delivery. So
Right.
they are subsuming the role of the government. But it's the raw materials market, you see. So you have Africa all these decades long being the raw materials market. So you mine all the products, you process them elsewhere in the north, elsewhere in the world, and then Africa buys them back. You know, your steel and your aluminium and your...
And then I suppose it's easier to disguise the source of the raw material than if it were refined locally. So using Burkina Faso again, if they refine the gold in Burkina Faso, it'll be stamped that it was refined in Burkina Faso, and it's not so easy to disguise if, as say, just a lump of raw Dora, the unrefined gold. Okay, then Trump, bringing it back to Trump, because then he negotiated this peace treaty between Rwanda and Congo that got signed in the White House, that ended, supposedly, I don't know, ended this 30-year war that has killed, I thought it was only 7 million. Why? What's his self-interest? Why would he want to negotiate a peace treaty? Why not keep extracting the resources on the cheap for the multinational corporations? Why would he want to do a peace treaty? And then how has it worked out anyway?
You know, you hear Trump so often saying it saved many lives. We want to save lives. And he says it about Ukraine. And I believe him.
Mm-hmm.
I think he really does. I think he really, really does want to stop these wars. And I think he's done this with Rwanda and Congo to stop that war. I think he genuinely wants to stop it. The only way he can do so is to bring in investment. And unfortunately, those very same investors have a very long track record in Central Africa, and it's horrendous. American mineral fields, Adastra, thinking of the names, Ivanhoe, Bechtel, oh gosh, and all the names, they've always been there. They've always been there. But I think Trump at times is stuck between a rock and a hard place. But he genuinely wanted to bring in this peace deal. The peace deal signed between Rwanda and DRC, that was back in June. At the White House, and you had Olivia Ingabire from Rwanda, and you had amazing woman, Foreign Affairs Minister of Congo, Madame Therese Wagner Kaikwamba. She's amazing woman. That government in Kinshasa, I know that so many people say, oh, the government in Kinshasa are on the gravy train, the minerals gravy train, that's why the war never ends. Okay, maybe there are elements. I'm sure there are elements who are, and there's huge problems with the armed forces. But that government have been so diplomatic, so patient, so dedicated. Since Tshisekedi came in 2018, he has done the most incredibly diplomatic peace overtures to Rwanda, to Uganda. That seems kind of to be resolved now. I think they are doing an amazing job. I really do. And so Trump has arranged the peace deal. The peace deal is between Rwanda and DRC. The peace deal does not involve M23, who are the main problem. So M23...
Okay, a radical insurgent group of some hue.
No, you're going to like this, okay? M23, so they have had a long evolution. And you see it's an acronym, right? Mm-hmm. So they have loads of acronyms in DRC. the sphere. So you've got ADF, M23, ADFL, AFC, RCA, CNDP, NDP. It goes on and on and on. And it's a vegetable soup of acronyms. It's the same element 30 years ago that it is today. It just rebrands. And I wrote a piece called The Smoke and Mirrors Game of War in Eastern Congo on that subject. So it's a rebranding of the same entity. So M23, that's the name of the rebels in Eastern Congo. Okay, they are in North and South Kivu. There are 3 provinces in Eastern Congo. There's Ituri, dripping in gold, by the way, in North Kivu and South Kivu. The minerals predominantly are coltan, for the cell phone, for digital technology, also cobalt, and many other things, gold included. So I am losing my track. So let
me bring you back. So M23, who's funding them? And am I right in assuming they're little more than gangsters? They're just a mafia group.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Oh,
so M23, I failed to preface it with RDF, because whenever I say M23, they know in French speaking. You see, it's French speaking in Congo, M23, which is M23 in French. So M23 RDF. I always say it together. M23 RDF.
Okay.
RDF is Rwandan Defense Force.
Right.
So the whole theater of the absurd, the great play that we're all performing in, the international media, when they say M23, you are supposed to think rebel movement defending the rights of the Congolese Tutsis, the Banyamulenge.
Mm-hmm.
M23 are the RDF, the Rwandan Defense Force. So that's the catch-22. That's the game. So you have a peace deal between DRC and Rwanda. Rwanda says, "Okay, we'll stop incursions onto your territory
by the Rwandan army."
By the Rwandan army.
But then they're now doing it under M23.
But they've always been doing it under M23 or whatever other acronym they were known by. Qatar are negotiating between M23 RDF and the Kinshasa government. Qatar have a heavily vested interest because they built the refinery in Rwanda to refine Congo's coltan. All Rwanda's minerals are stolen from Congo.
Right.
So while you have this game of non-recognition of the identity of M23, the performance continues. So if I were to show you a video footage that I have on my phone of M23 RDF, you're not seeing the ragtag militia. They've got rocket launchers. They've got fantastic, military equipment, hardware, very well funded, very well equipped, fantastic uniforms, extremely well trained. You see footage of them. They are an army on the march. They're an army on the march because they're the Rwandan army on the march.
Right. Okay. So then Rwanda gets to bypass the treaty. They signed the treaty, but really they're using M23 as undercover, as agents for the Rwandan army. And then Rwanda gets to steal the mineral resources from Congo in order to line the pockets of the Rwandan governments.
Of the Rwandan elite and all their friends like Tony Blair and Bill Clinton.
No, don't. I'm not going to hear a bad word said about that demon, Tony Blair.
Oh, dear.
Or Saint Bill Clinton.
So, but getting back to that subject, so M23 RDF now control, their most recent thing is they occupied Uvira, the major city in South Kivu on the border, right on the border of Burundi. So the whole thing got horrendously tense. They've since backed off thanks to Washington. But M23 RDF now occupy all of the key cities, Goma in North Kivu and Bukavu in South Kivu.
Okay.
Enormously powerful, enormously, they are terrorists. They are horrific terrorists.
Pety, I'm conscious of the time because I want to move on to Somalia.
I'm sorry,
and
yes.
Somalia. No, but it's really, really important because people don't know about Rwanda and Congo. You know, because Africa doesn't make the news. But I want to say a few things about Africa. It's got a very young populace. It's incredibly resource rich. It's really, really, really big. You can fit the length of Russia inside Africa, and you can also get China and I think the United States and India into, and maybe Canada as well into Africa. It's massive. And the other thing that I think a mistake that certainly I make is thinking of Africa as one discrete entity, in the same way that I might think of France or Europe as one discrete entity. Now, Africa, in terms of its landmass, is pretty discrete, right? It's all collected, but it's so diverse. You know, from the Arabs in the north in Morocco and everything, to the Bantu people, to all the way down in South Africa. I don't know how many ridiculous numbers of languages and traditions and cultures, very young population with very high use of mobile phones, incredibly resource rich, up and coming. And perhaps there'll come a time, perhaps after China's decline as a hegemon, because China's going to take over from the United States pretty soon, I think, that Africa will be rising. In the meantime, the incredibly impoverished European powers are doing what they can to grab as much of the resources as they can get because they don't have any of their own. That's all they can do. Is how Europe gets rich is through extractive theft using financial leverage. And then by brewing all these conflicts, this unrest, you have divide and rule, and then these gangster governments can have local gangsters to continue to pillage and steal.
And you've got the wicked governments, the destabilized countries, so that Africa can't fulfill its rightful role in the world.
Because one of the things I do know is that when the European nations gave nominal independence to African nations, and many African nations had like sovereigntist, nationalist leaders who then died or got dieded. Right? Like Sankara, as you were telling me, he was in Burkina Faso, and you were saying Traore stands on the shoulders of Sankara in terms of being a nationalist and a sovereigntist and paying attention to the needs of the Burkina Faso people and forming an informal alliance with Mali and Niger, which is pissing off the Europeans. But then what they're doing is making nice with the Iranians and the Russians and possibly the Chinese as a sort of protection. I'll cozy up to these gangsters so I'm safe from these gangsters. I've had enough of them, right? Okay, I'll try a Russian and an Iranian and a Chinese gangster, see how they work out. And they're probably saying, listen, we're nicer. We're a better breed of gangster. We're not going to treat you badly like those gangsters.
They have better loans. They have far better deals on the loans.
They're pimps. I'm a better pimp than the European pimp. And then Somalia. So one of the things I told you is that and if we could do this quickly, because I also want to get into Somaliland, a friend of mine sent me a tweet, which is from Dave DeCamp, who's the editor of antiwar.com, that Trump has dropped more bombs on Somalia than Obama ever did. In fact, than Obama and Bush combined. He's dropping lots and lots of bombs on Somalia. And then we have Israel last week recognizing Somaliland, the only country in the world to recognize Somaliland, which is this breakaway region from Somalia, which from my understanding, unlike the rest of Somalia, has been stable ever since they broke away. So come on, fill in the gaps, and you've got a few minutes left. Tell us everything.
Okay. I would liken Somaliland to a NATO garrison, a listening post, an intelligence base, an MI6 base.
Oh no, not them again.
If you look at Somaliland, it's been an autonomous region for a long time, along with Puntland just down the coast from it, strategically placed Gulf of Aden, very, very strategically placed. Djibouti, just bordering on Somaliland, the largest AFRICOM base. Oh gosh, was that right?
Yes, and then the Chinese based.
Yeah, and then the Chinese took over. But Somaliland is really, it's an intelligence outpost. It's not a country, which is why Israel have been the first to say, yeah, we recognize you as a sovereign state, because it's an intelligence operation. That's why. Have I got time to quickly go into the creation of Somaliland? I'll do as fast as I can, right? So creation of Somaliland and Puntland as autonomous regions, you go back in time to Somalia under a president called Siad Barre. And we're going back now to the if people will remember, possibly, it was a horrible Hollywood film, Black Hawk Down, Mogadishu, 1991. Mogadishu is obliterated. It is bombed to hell, not bombed to hell, shot to hell. Two vying factions just shooting everyone to bits and every building down to rubble. And this was getting rid of the president called Siad Barre. Now, Siad Barre had to face a number of things during his presidency. One of them was an insurrection from Somaliland, from the people in that area. He's something like that, I can't remember. And he was provoked by that insurgency into bombing Hargeisa. Hargeisa is the capital of Somaliland. His army refused to do it, and he had to bring in mercenaries, and the mercenaries bombed Hargeisa. What he was trying to do was to keep Somalia together in one piece. Now, people think of Somalia as an economic basket case, which it is, and so many countries in Africa have had this same history, okay? And Haiti has had the same history. That's an interesting example. Now, in the 1970s, just to give you a glimpse of how things were, Somalia's economy was doing brilliantly, and they had an incredibly diverse number of products that they produced, processed, and exported. So they were processing fish into canned tinned fish and exporting them. It's an amazing ceramic tile industry, matches, you name it. They were doing a lot, and the economy was really doing well. Mogadishu, ancient city of Mogadishu, dating way back to the time of the old Silk Road, the ancient Silk Road that the BRI is modelled on. Belt and Road Initiative. Mogadishu is ancient, and that was a very, very popular holiday destination from people all over the world, mostly Europe, and who would consider going on holiday now to Mogadishu. And that pattern has been replicated. I mean, the fishing industry in Somalia, once, prime key industry of the country, was destroyed by nuclear waste dumping. There was the whole issue of Trafigura, wonderful young Italian journalist went out to find out what was going on. She was murdered. But basically, Europe's, I think it was the French, nuclear waste was being dumped in Somalia, literally buried under roads, chucked in the sea. So the fish stock started dying off. That led to the piracy. So you know about the piracy issue of Somalia. So the Somali fishermen had no fish because they were dying from strange bloated bubbles on their skin. And they turned to piracy. Now that whole issue of piracy coming to times now has been hijacked by ship insurers, probably Lloyd's. And the insurers are now paying the pirates and telling them which ships to hijack next, because it's an insurance fiddle. So that's Somalia. And so, and that's that thing. This is one point I would love to just make quickly. In the 70s, we're talking in the 70s, okay? So we're talking, and that you can find examples of how that has happened in so many countries across the continent, and now in South Africa, okay? And what you're looking at is these economies prior to what globalism and what the globalists and Herr Schwab have done to the economic systems, because they've rejected the physical economy, completely rejected the principles of the physical economy, the investment in infrastructure, in sanitation, roads, engineering, science, technology, all those things that put you on an upward trajectory. And all this time, what have we heard about African, Harvard's advice to African economies? Sustainable development, hey? Sustainable development
program, sustainable development.
Yeah.
And something just occurred to me in what you said, because the globalist model is to use financial leverage to extract resources in order to enrich themselves. But if you have a productive economy, then that will give rise to a strong currency.
Yeah.
So then you have a strong currency, based on the productive economy, plus also the collateral in the ground, the resources, well, that would completely undermine the lack of collateral that the City of London has.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Pety, we're going to have to finish up, but you are going to have to come back on again, right? Just
Thank
letting
you.
you know this.
Thank you.
And talking to you, I can say to you, I can try and draw a metaphor between traveling through Africa or having a conversation with you, right? Both are really, really expansive and detailed, right? Because I know there's other countries. We haven't really talked about Somalia, why Trump is bombing Somalia, but I suspect it's got something to do with stopping the globalists from extracting resources and militant Islam and what the mess that they're causing everywhere. And then you and I were talking before about Sierra Leone, and I've been to Sierra Leone. I'm interested in how the British are continuing to destroy that. And then we haven't had a conversation about Burkina Faso yet, because I think that's really, really interesting, a useful model for other countries to follow, perhaps. And of course, South Africa. How can we ignore the plight of South Africa? I didn't tell you this. I joined the anti-apartheid movement when I was 18, growing up in London. And it's when P.W. Botha was coming to the UK on a state visit. And I went to a school where 55% of the kids were African Caribbean. And we hadn't been taught anything about apartheid. And now there's news items, about P.W. Botha and apartheid. And I'm like, this is horrific. You can't be doing that, treating people like that. So I joined the anti-apartheid movement. And that's where I really started my political journey, through very left-wing, old-school British politics. And now here I am, loving this conversation that I've had with a fellow far-right, white supremacist, orphan from the LaRouche.
Lovely.
Now, Pety, people can find you from africanagenda.net. I do recommend they check that out. And love to have you back on again. If you have any comments or questions, let us know. And if there's any particular African nation that you'd like us to cover, there's quite a few. There's 50 plus or something. We can go through them one at a time.
55, yeah.
That's right. We can travel through Africa in conversations with Pety. Thank you so much. Anything you want to say before we finish up?
No, just to thank you, really, and to thank you for your tone, and to thank you for your channel, because it's energizing, it's optimistic, it's I love the vibe, because the whole journey can be so depressing, and you are the antidote to it.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Comments, questions, all that business. This is Rich and Pety signing out. All the best. Bye-bye.